I am going to call to order the Diversion Board Authority meeting for June 24th at 3:31 p.m. Could I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Carlson.
Here.
Dr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mayor Dardis.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
I'm here.
Mr. Hendrickson is on the phone with us.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Ebinger is on the phone.
Here.
Ms. Preston. Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mrs. Shirley.
I'm here.
Anybody hear me out there?
Mr. Steen.
Here.
Mr. Olson.
That was.
Okay, Roger.
He was there, I think, right?
Yeah.
It sounded like he was on a
Yeah,
tractor
he's
or
there.
something. Yeah.
And Mr. Salzwald.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Moving on to number 2, approval of the minutes from May 27th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Also in favor.
Was it in favor? Okay. All right. Motion passes. Moving on to number 3, the approval of the order of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the order of the
Steen
agenda?
moves. Second Campbell.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. All right. Moving on, okay, that was on the,
Consent agenda.
right, okay. This always throws me off because consent agenda doesn't have a number by it. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion on anything on the consent agenda? Hearing none, could I get a roll call, please?
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Dardis.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shirley.
Yes.
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Salzwald.
Aye.
It is everyone.
Thank you. Consent agenda passes. Moving on to our regular agenda. Number 4 is our executive director report, and I will turn it over to you, Mr. Polson.
Thank you, Chairwoman Carlson and the board. Obviously, we had a very exciting Friday last week. Just wanted to go over a few of the media things that we've been working on this week as a follow-up from the event on Friday. Oh, I think if you're online, can you please mute? Thank you. So, you know, we've been doing a lot of outreach this week. I think a few board members have as well. You know, our key messages are reliable permanent flood protection, that our funding is secured, that we're saving taxpayer money with the WIFIA and the P3 arrangement, that we have confidence in our P3 vendor, and that we have an excellent partnership with the Corps and construction, but also an economic boom coming forward for the DA. Just want to give a couple of statistics as far as our media and outreach. We have distributed to 910 media outlets the press release for the event that occurred on Friday. So far, this is a few days old, but we've had 7,600 media release views. So we're really getting the message out there about what's going on, even locally, but also on the national stage as well. We're building project awareness for support for economic development, and we're also showcasing the FM diversion as a model for the rest of the country. So congratulations to the board on a great event last Friday. You know, I think it was a milestone for the project, and we will be meeting with the development team early next week, I believe, and start kicking off those conversations. And much more to come as we start to receive information from their team about their intent and their plans, and as we move forward. Just a few dates to keep in mind. Right now, we are looking at commercial close within 60 days, so it'll be sometime in August. That'll be the time that the board actually takes action on the agreement with the Red River Valley Alliance. And then after that, we have 90 days until the financial close, which is anticipated to occur sometime around November 15th. So just a few dates to keep in mind. A couple other things, closing on the WIFIA loan last Friday. I don't know if I had a chance to really talk to the board about the terms of that loan, but we did close that $569 million at 2.07% interest. So we were extremely happy. The markets dipped for a day a little bit, and I think Mr. Shockley was doing a little dance when he got the phone call when we had closed. So a couple of construction updates. They continue work on SE1. I won't go into an in-depth core construction review because I have Chris Bockyard to do that later in the agenda. Couple of utility relocates, though. The New Star pipeline, which is a large pipeline that we're having to relocate. They did start boring on that this week. A number of ongoing coordination items. You'll see in your packet today, we have our second township MOU, which we believe is stride in the right direction here. I know Chris Bockyard is just on the edge of getting another 2 or 3 that hopefully will be coming through next month as well. So we're making a lot of progress on getting those township MOUs in place. Also, multiple policies and plans that we're working through relating to cemeteries, the Comstock project, the Christine project, and working with Buffalo Red Watershed District, as well as multiple lands policies that we'll be bringing forward for some consideration. And then, as always, just ongoing permit coordination. Obviously, we know we got a lot of permits out there, and they require a lot of attention to ensure that we're meeting all the provisions of all those permits. So that's just kind of a brief update of what's kind of gone on over the course of the last 3 weeks or so, but certainly open if anyone has any questions or comments they'd like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Belson. Any questions or comments? How about from anybody who is called in? All right, hearing none, thank you for all your work. And last
Thank
week
you.
was a complete success. So congratulations to you and also everyone on the board. And most importantly, we got to celebrate Juneteenth on Friday.
That's right.
Mr. John Shockley.
Thank you, Chairwoman Carlson. Appreciate that.
Yes. Speaking of, moving on to number 5, General Counsel update. Mr. Shockley.
Good afternoon, members of the board. We have 2 simple resolutions before the board this afternoon. They are both related to a MOU that was signed previously with Cass County. Under that MOU, upon request by the Diversion Authority, Cass County will take over the rights of way for different project areas within the footprint of the project. Those 2 areas right now are along Drain 27 and then along rights of way on SEA2. If you look in your packet, there's maps attached to each of the resolutions identifying that. And this is just a procedural process that's set forth in the MOUs. Could certainly answer any questions, but I believe the Finance Committee had recommended approval yesterday.
Are there any questions?
Move to approve.
And would that be for 5A and B or just 5A?
Both 5A and 5B.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? Anyone on the phone have any further discussion? Hearing none, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mayor Dardis.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Hi.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Ebinger.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling.
yes,
Mr. Steen.
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Mr. Seljeval.
Aye.
That is everyone.
Thank you. Motion carries. All right. Moving on to number 6, use on Recurve engineer project update. I believe Terry is not here today, so Chris Bockyard will be providing this report.
Thank you, Chairwoman Carlson and board members. I'll do my best to give a brief update. Probably don't have as much detail as Terry would normally have, but give you guys a quick update on where we are with construction and design progress. You'll see Terry's notes here. I'll just highlight a few things on there. Note that we're over half done with the inlet structure. I think that's a nice milestone. We're on our downhill slide towards completing that project, which is great news. Just on a side note, I was talking to one of the project superintendents a couple weeks ago, and I think we'll see gates starting to show up on site late this year, early next year, and they'll start assembly. So I think that'll be another interesting milestone when we start seeing those big steel structures showing up on site to get worked on. But today they're working on mostly concrete pours yet. They're working on both the foundation slabs and also the abutments on the inlet structure. Wild Rice is in a similar spot. They're working on the stilling basin and the abutments as well. So there's kind of an ongoing slate of concrete pours week by week. So again, just a reminder, if any of you would like to make site visits and would like somebody to accompany you, just let me know. I'd be happy to run you out to the sites and give you a quick tour at any given time. So just let me know or let Don know, and we can coordinate schedules and get that done. On the I-29, they're prepping and getting ready to start really hauling borrow. They may have started that this week. I didn't get down there yesterday, but they've got the haul road pretty well complete, and they've got most of the area of the bypass stripped and are working in both borrow sites at this point and getting ready to continue moving a lot of material here this summer. SE1 has made good progress with the nice weather. They've got pretty much everything stripped and are starting to haul clay along that segment of southern embankment that's south and west of Horace. If you get down in there, you'll see a lot of dust flying around on any given day. And then getting into the projects that are still in the design phases, Red River structure, we will be going through final review starting next month. So that project is very well underway. On our side, we're working to finish our permitting and land acquisition for that project, and that's moving along well as well. For SE1B, SE2A, and 2B, those are in various stages of design, so we've just been continuing to coordinate with the Corps of Engineers. We've started our permitting process for SE2A, and we'll be anticipating starting our permitting work and land work with them on SE1B and 2B here in probably the next 3 to 4 months. During 27, again, the final plans are due the end of July, so we're very close on that. Again, working on finaling our permitting. The Corps is planning to award that contract sometime in early part of 2022. Early part of 2022. Drayton Dam, there was one slight modification we made to the schedule there. They're going to slide that from like an August finish date to October. A couple of things we're coordinating with both the North Dakota State Engineer's Office and also with the Minnesota DNR, just some internal coordination stuff, a few minor design modifications. We wanted to make sure we got those addressed thoroughly, so the Corps has adjusted their schedule slightly on that, but I don't see it causing any major problems. So with that, again, reminder, if you want to make site visits, let me know. And that's if you have any questions, I can certainly try to answer them or at least take them back to Terry and make sure we get you an answer. So.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? But any questions on anyone online or on the call? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Backyard. Also, I think if people wanted to do site visits, I believe Mayor Mahoney has a collection of hard hats and construction vests, so maybe see him if you need those. All right, moving on to number 7, public outreach. Roger?
Madam Chair, this is Roger. We did not have an outreach meeting this month, but it does not mean that Jennifer and her team weren't quite busy and helped make the meeting last week successful. And I think she just has an update on what she's looking at going forward here in this next few weeks. Jennifer?
Thank you. I'll just share a quick update that for the next public outreach and board meetings coming up, that I'm working on finalizing the communications strategy that the P3 vendor will be utilizing once they are on board. So by the end of this next week, we'll have that initial first draft. It'll be circulated with leadership and some of the members here just for some initial feedback, and then we'll put a final version in the packet for your review before the next public outreach and board meeting. So just know that that's on the way, and would love any feedback from you as you receive that information, as it will be our foundation for how we are setting our communication standards with the P3 vendor once they're on board. Thanks so much.
This is Roger again. I do have one question. Whose idea was the purple sunglasses? Is that Jennifer? Was that you or?
No, that wasn't me. Actually, I'm not sure who put the purple sunglasses out, but they were great.
I just wanted to thank them because I did bring a pair home for my wife, and our grandchildren thought that Grandma and Grandpa looked pretty cool in those.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Roger. I think that was Mayor Mahoney.
Madam Chair. Roger, I'm glad I can make you look cool. But I did have a question on the P3. They're going to have a press press team. And I'm wondering with Jennifer, are we going to have some oversight on that? Because Roger, my concern is that I think they will be communicating to the landowners or construction sites or in the county, Chad, a lot of things they are doing. And would we have any input on that? Or for instance, is there a question, well, maybe John knows, you know, if you're communicating, I know Roger early on, sometimes we sent out stuff to landowners and you wanted to tweak it, make it different. It sounded one way or the other, but I think our oversight committee sometimes watched over that to make sure that was managed in a proper fashion. So my curiosity on this is the P3 off on their own, or does our outreach committee have some input to that?
So a great question. Under the project agreement, the P3 developer is required to submit a communications plan that we have to approve. And so they'll be developing, and when Joel spoke about the kickoff meeting next week, we'll be going through the list of documents that they have to provide to us and the review process, and that'll be one of the items. So under the project agreement, they have to provide us, before we issue a notice to proceed, a full communications plan, and they'll also have a communications director, official, public relations official, whatever the terminology would be, that would work directly with Jennifer from our staff so that we have coordinated press releases. The P3 team recognized the essential nature of having communications during construction, especially because there'll be disruptions to Township Road, dust, those sorts of issues. And so that was a big part of some of the document drafting. And as that communication plan is fully vetted and approved, that's something that we could report back to the board on what that final communications product looks like.
Thank you.
I'll also add to that, and that's part of the communication strategy that I'm putting together to give them some guidance to follow. But also part of my responsibility in partnering with them is to audit them throughout the year as well, to ensure that they're adhering to the standards that we to ensure that they're, following for communications.
Thank you, Mr. Shockley. Any additional questions? Any questions from those on the phone? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Olson and Jennifer and Mr. Shockley. Moving on to number 8, lands management. I will turn that over to you, Commissioner Sherling.
Thank you. Lands did not meet yesterday, or this month, I should say, but I would refer to if Kevin has anything from the Minnesota side, and if Roger wants to add anything from the joint board, please do. Otherwise, you've got the usual stats in your packet to refer to. We're certainly clipping along, but Kevin, did you want to add anything?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mary. We did meet today, the MCC JPA, and the first item that we did deal with today was the environmental worksheet for the Drayton Dam. That process, the comment period had closed on that process, And there were some comments by the Minnesota DNR and I believe MPCA in Minnesota. And I think those comments have been answered. And so with that and based on the findings of fact, our Minnesota Clay County Joint Powers issued a negative EIS decision today, which means that that project can move forward to the permitting process. And so I think that kind of ends that portion of the EAW. We also today, we continue to monitor the environmental easement process on lands in Minnesota. Another significant step today that we took was, I believe, back up a little bit, our county board not too long ago had authorized entering into final offers on 4 properties that are needed for the Red River control structure on the Minnesota side. And that process now, we had come to one agreement on those 4. And today there was a proposed settlement on the second one, which our board did approve. So things are moving along in the right direction on those land acquisitions. And I think those are 2 significant steps forward. And the other 2 that we're dealing with, we're still in communication with them. Sounds like we might be close on a 3rd one. And hopefully within 90 days, that'll all be resolved. So things are looking good for keeping that portion of the Red River control structure land acquisition on time and on track. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Kevin. Roger, did you want to add anything on the North Dakota side?
Sure. Just quickly, we continue to work on the environmental easements. It's an issue. The 50-year ask is a long time for people, and so we're just working through that, and there's been offers that have come forward. We've asked the land agents to go back and renegotiate because the counter offers have been too high in instances, and we did approve. I believe we approved a couple that fell within where we thought they were reasonable. So we just continue to work with the land owners that we need to acquire property rights from, and continue to treat them with respect. Thank you.
So that's all we have, unless anybody has any questions. I think Joel's there as well to answer them.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Sherling. Commissioner Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a question to our diversion team. Now we can talk more openly about the way we're going to proceed regarding this project. And we've always talked about going from north to south. I don't know if they've given you a Gantt chart of any kind. Is there any indication they are proceeding in that fashion? The reason I ask is because obviously we've got land acquisition still due as we progress towards the south. If we've got any issues regarding timeliness of things, we should probably know that right now.
Great question, Commissioner Peterson. So we have not received the plan quite yet of exactly where it's going, where they're going to start, what their proposed schedule is. That will be coming very soon, and so we will be able to share that information when it comes along. We do have all the rights necessary for the channel at the moment, whether it's through eminent last resort eminent domain proceedings or fee title land. So we will be providing all the land necessary at NTP 1, which is anticipated to be that November 15th date. So we're not concerned about any issues as far as disruption and schedule, depending on where or when the developer intends to begin their operations.
Okay, thank you. Any idea when they're going to give you an ETA on their timeline?
I guess I'll refer to Mr. Shockley if he's got any update on what that might look like.
With respect to the actual timeline to commence construction, we expect that they will begin mobilization late this fall and probably start construction in the spring. We'll get a more specific detailed analysis of their buildable units as we progress towards commercial close. I would anticipate that this team will try to get it constructed as quickly as possible so that the faster they reach substantial completion, the sooner they start getting their availability payments.
Will they give you guesses by this fall?
They'll give us a full schedule, and once we have the full schedule, we can certainly provide some information to the board, and there's opportunities for the representatives of the developers to also provide an overview of their schedule too,
That would be
once we reach commercial close.
That would be outstanding. Thank you.
My question has to do with, do they have to provide a finalized schedule on or before closing date?
Yeah, they'll provide us a schedule. It's a great question. They'll provide us a schedule of their buildable units and their pay units as we proceed through construction. So that schedule, they may finish sooner than their schedule, but you'll get a full detailed schedule because that works into our financial plan. So we need to know when they need payments. And so it's a very involved process, and we'll know pretty closely when each of the units are expected to be completed. Of course, there's always, conditions that are outside of everybody's control. If there were a flood or something, that would be delayed, but we'll know pretty precisely when their construction efforts are taking place in which areas.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Roger. John, is there going to be any interaction with the contractor and the board as far as updates, or is that all going to come through our team?
I would envision that it would, most of the updates would be coming through the executive director to the board, and from time to time, we may invite the developer to provide updates to the board, but the intent is to have the diversion authority ensuring that the contract is complied with, and so we would envision that any updates regarding the project would come through the team, through the executive director, and then to the board. And from time to time, we might have the developer provide some updates.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Sherling, and Commissioner Olson and Commissioner, I almost called you, I almost said Wayland. Campbell. Moving on to number 9, finance update, Mayor Dardis.
Thank you, Chairman Carlson. The Finance Committee did meet yesterday, and we had a number of updates that took place. There was a lands development and update by Mr. Vetter, along with Mr. Shockley, also provided us with the DA board approval MOUs and agreement actions that are on the consent agenda. He went through each of those items, and as Mr. Shockley indicated, the Finance Committee supported all of those items. We also had a general council update on regarding the A and B, and the Finance Committee acted on both of those too. That is basically the actions that we took place yesterday. If there's any questions, be happy to try and answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dardis. Any questions of Finance Committee? Any questions from anybody on the phone? All right, hearing none, moving on to other business. Do we have any other business?
I got a real quick one. So they announced the federal infrastructure plan, and I was paying attention, but I happened to see it on my phone. It's $55 billion for water infrastructure, and so that's a good number. I'd like to see us, I think we have a good opportunity to put some of that money to good use. So $55 billion, that's a good number.
Specific to water, even better.
Yep.
Mayor Mahoney.
Dave and I are trying to make it go longer than 4 o'clock because this will be one of your shortest meetings. So we'd like John to explain the Constitution, if you just explain that to us. And his short version would be fine, Mr. Shockley.
As chair, I think I'm going to bypass that motion. Under other business, yeah, we're going to table that motion for right now. All right. So our next meeting will be scheduled for July 22nd, 2021 at 3:30 p.m. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
We are adjourned.